the world searching for a light in the dark, there is only one two-man team with the balls to take you by the hand and lead you to the light. That one team is RantWorthy Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. It's another Sunday, July 2nd, 2017. I am Lee Powell with my co-host, Ryan. Does this make my butt look big? Chamber.
What's going on?
We're casting the pods from a secret bunker in the heartland of America, Cincinnati, Ohio. Welcome back, everybody. We ended up planning this last week. I know I dropped it at the end of the episode saying that we would have this because last week my wife ended up sending me an article and saying she was watching the news. She's a teacher, so she's at home all day sitting on her ass, hanging out with the kid, not doing nothing. The kid takes care of itself, you know how kids are. She's watching the news and says that there was a coroner, a sheriff, like a mayor, all sorts of people on TV talking about how Ohio was the overdose capital of the world. Mm-hmm. I just thought it was crazy as hell, and I happen to know someone that kind of went super deep into that life and made it out really cleanly and is smart enough to talk about it. And I was like, dang, that is probably the perfect resource for a time like that. And I figured not only is it pertinent to this time frame that we're in, but it could probably help people. It could be fun for some listeners. It could be educational for others. I thought it'd be really useful. Do you have the article that originally brought all this up?
I do. I have some of the high points. So some of the facts that have come from that. So Montgomery County does top the U.S. for overdose deaths,
which is Dayton.
Yes, Dayton. So in less than 6 months, nearly 400 people in Montgomery County, Ohio, have died from an overdose. They are on pace to have 800 people die this year due to overdose in the county. In per capita, that's number one in the nation. So with that, they have had to build an extension onto the morgue to accommodate all of the bodies that they have in there, which is absolutely insane to think about when it comes to that. So
yeah, it's nuts.
And then statewide, for Ohio, more than 4,000 people have died from drug overdoses last year. And then also in 2015, Ohio had the highest number of prescription opioid overdose deaths as well. So it's definitely a bad problem in the state of Ohio for sure. And Indiana and Kentucky are bad about it as well. So
yeah. So to introduce our guest, his name is Jared, and I always ask him, like, what am I supposed to call you? Because we always have those kind of conversations. We had a conversation the other day. Is someone always an addict? Are you eventually over it? So are you a recovering addict? So I like to almost consider you a recovered addict is what I like to call you. That's what I think about in my head. I think you're a recovered addict because you seem past that. But
well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say past it.
Really?
But, I mean, there's always a hint there. You know, that old Jared is always inside of me. He's never going to go away. And the minute that I forget that he's in there is the minute that I go back down that road.
Whoa. Dang, that is heavy.
So I will always be a junkie.
Dang. So there's something to that with like the AA and NA people where they say you're always an addict and you need to be in control of that. Yeah. I used to think that was bullshit. So I'm glad you're actually telling me that because I used to think, oh, they just want you to be like a slave to their program for a long time. But no, there's a kernel of that always in you that you need to be for sure combating on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Does referring to yourself as a junkie, does that help you mentally keep yourself in check?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, it's something that I have to embrace in myself. You know what I mean? I know I was, and I know I still am.
So it's more of like a positive thing that you've come out on the other side of it now.
Oh, yeah, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, so the reason you go harshly at it with yourself almost is comfortable because you're not that close to that situation anymore.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go down the road, right?
Yeah.
Because I always wonder how people get to that situation. So I'm overly interested. And another reason why, and I was talking about this with other people, my wife and some friends of mine at work, another reason why I'm kind of interested in this is because when I was a kid and I used to know that my mom wasn't around, people used to say, well, she's a drug addict, so she's just not around. And I used to always wonder, I don't even know what the fuck that means.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like, as a kid, I don't know what day-to-day being into drugs means. I have no fucking idea. So when it would be like, no, your mom isn't around because she's on drugs. Your mom's been hooked on drugs. She's gone because of drugs. I never knew what that meant. And I never really had a resource for somebody to actually tell me. and what resources I did have, they might not be the most dependable people in the world.
Right.
So it's weird because ever since I've known you, you've always seemed like an intelligent guy who was driven and had things going on and seemed positive. And then all of a sudden I heard about your past and I was dumbfounded because you had went through the shit. So I was like, not only is it useful for this kind of story, but it also kind of helps me understand like what maybe my mom got mixed up in, what that culture is like, because I've never known. So I can't help but go to the very beginning of how does it all start? Is there a frat boy mentality? Like, when kids are kids, you're hanging out, everyone's around drinking, and it's a little bit of smoking weed. Is that lasting for years? What is the beginning looking like? Like, let's say first introduction to any kind of drugs, even mild stuff.
I would go ahead and say that the first time I actually got introduced to drugs, probably my freshman year. I was always, as a kid, searching for acceptance in life, and I never really found that. But then I found that group of people at my freshman school who were, smoking weed and drinking on the weekends and stuff like that. And I always thought that was the cool kids. That's who everybody was hanging out with. So I went ahead and I drew myself to them. Started smoking weed at a very young age, almost daily. I drank every now and then. I never really got into the drinking thing. And then, so I was just smoking weed every day and partying.
But that to me always seems like, I don't want to say that it's normal, but it seems more normal than when people get into heavy drugs.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Because weed almost to me is like equivalent to alcohol. So to me, I don't even think that much differently about that. It's kind of just a normal thing, especially in high school. It's not that crazy for somebody to be smoking weed. Right. You know what I mean?
And and that's true. It's the socially acceptable things. Everybody smokes weed. Everybody drinks. So everybody was into it.
Yeah.
Do you think that there was a time where weed and beer was ever a problem, or was that just?
Yeah.
You're really even
yeah.
that was a problem at one point.
I was a pothead. I was a straight pothead.
What is your definition of a pothead?
I literally smoked pot all day, every day for like 4 years.
So you're just not doing much other than just
sitting in a room with my buddies, smoking some weed.
That's crazy.
Dang. Are you playing video games while you're in there?
Hell yeah.
Just getting high and playing Halo.
It wasn't Halo.
Damn it.
What was the name of that game? Shit.
Playing first-person shooters?
No, it was like some kind of medieval game.
Shit.
Fuck, what was it called? I can't remember, man.
Damn.
But we used to play the shit out of that game.
So it's just get high, eat a lot,
exactly.
Play video games.
I remember one time, I wanted my buddy Matt to skip school, and his mom was chill. She was a great woman. And I wanted him to skip school, and he wouldn't do it. So me and my buddy Mikey were like, you know what, fuck it. We're leaving. I went to his house, broke in his house, through a window, smoked all his weed.
Oh, how dare you.
Ate all his food.
No.
Left all the dishes in the sink and just walked out. His mom came home pissed. She was like, Matt, what were you doing skipping school? Matt was like, I swear I didn't skip school. I was there. He called me like, you motherfucker.
That's awesome.
Jesus. I can definitely say I never broke in my friends' houses.
Well, we will get into that, but I broke into quite
hilarious.
A few houses. So.
Jesus. So to me, I never, granted, I guess there is a way to abuse weed, but I see other drugs as being straight up dangerous drugs.
Yeah, there's no physical withdrawal from weed. You can smoke it and wake up the next day. Yeah, you're going to be a little tired, but you're not like, oh my God, I need more.
So when does the harder drugs get introduced? How does that happen? What's that scenario look like?
I was still smoking weed with all my buddies, and Matt, like I mentioned earlier, was on Adderall. So that was probably like my first step up from weed. Was I would do a little Adderall every now and then, speed my balls off, stay up all night, and I hated it. But the addiction in me, or the addict, I'd keep doing it just because I wanted to feel that, even though I hated it, I just wanted to feel different, So that's where it probably started. I probably did my first pain pill 10th grade, my first opiate in the 10th grade. So Yeah, that's where it all began.
So you're smoking weed at one point, and then someone offers you a pill, or is this like you're at school and it's like, hey, take this? What's the planning of that first time?
It honestly went off with, hey, this is the shit.
That
Try
I take?
it.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
so it's like this is what will speed your balls off.
Yeah.
Take this, and you're like, fuck it.
Like, fuck it.
Where
dude.
were you?
I was probably in math class.
You were in school when you
Oh
did
yeah.
it.
I used
Holy
to do drugs in
fuck.
school. You go into the bathroom, that's the best time. Crush one up on the back of the toilet and rail it out. Oh yeah.
Are you serious? So you snorted it?
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable.
I snorted. I would go ahead and say, this might be jumping ahead a little bit, the only drugs I have never done is probably huffing paint and smoking meth.
Whew. Oh my God.
I mean, I was the definition of a get out of yourself junkie.
So do you think that you were talking about how you were addicted to the feeling of opiates right away. Do you think that's something that was predispositioned inside of you, or do you think that is a reflection of opiates in general?
I like that you brought that up because I wanted to mention it. One of my counselors always told me that there is a biopsychosocial. So you're either biologically an addict, socially an addict, or psychologically. So I would go ahead and say that the social aspect added to it, but I think that there was something in me that made me an addict. Because if it wasn't drugs, it was something else, you know?
So you felt like, were family members, other family members ever struggling with these type things? Or was it maybe replacing it with other things, like maybe people eat too much, maybe people are smokers, drinkers? Like,
well, yeah, I had smokers in my family and the occasional alcoholics, but I mean, there was somebody close to me that I never really heard about much because it was just like kind of one of those things where you just brush it under the rug. You know, if you don't talk about it, nobody knows, and we don't have to look like that, you know?
I feel like that's kind of a regular thing in families. Like, because I grew up in a small town, and there are lots of issues with meth labs and things like that, and it's always like everybody knows about it, but nobody wants to speak about it in a public setting.
Yeah, because nobody wants to look at
It's
you like that.
You just want to, like, you know that it's there, but you choose to ignore it versus addressing the issue in a public forum. It's really strange to me.
so at one point, would you say you could have seen this coming?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say I could see the extent of the way it went coming, but I knew I was going down a road that I shouldn't be going down.
Even early, freshman year?
Oh, yeah.
You knew already.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you even know before that? Or is when you started getting into weed, are you just noticing I tend to do these things that are dangerous?
Yeah. I knew it wasn't right, but I just didn't care. I wasn't going to stop. I mean, my parents knew. They didn't want me to do it, but they weren't going to, beat my ass over it.
Did somebody teach you how to crush up pills and snort them, or are you just like winging it?
I'm winging shit, dude. I'm straight grabbing it out of the air and being like, I wonder if this will work.
Yeah, because I kind of wonder, like, when you get to the point of where you're doing, heroin or something along those lines, I can tell you my extent of, when Lee and I talked about this, I told him my extent of the knowledge that I have on how to do heroin is what I've seen Jesse do in Breaking Bad, and that is literally it. I mean, that's all I have. So, like, to me, like, I wouldn't even know how to go about doing that.
Right.
So, did anybody like coach you through that?
Yeah. Well, there's 3 ways of doing heroin. You can either smoke it, you can snort it, or you can shoot it. The shooting part was a pretty difficult task.
Oh,
so
God.
yeah, I had to be coached on that one. But the other 2, you kind of figure it out as you go.
Someone taught you how to shoot it though.
Uncle Buck is what I called him.
That was his name?
I don't know what his name was.
Dang.
I just called him Uncle Buck.
He taught you how to do it. What does that scene look like?
We were in his basement, and it wasn't heroin. The heroin wasn't the first thing I shot up. It was Oxycontin 80s. And going from snorting those things to shooting them, you feel like you're about to die. And anybody out there that has ever done those, they can probably catch on that one.
So is that something you can do for a lot of drugs, or is that it?
Shooting?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can do it. Pretty much any opiate, you
Okay.
can do it with morphine, heroin.
So set the scene of that
Roxy's,
first
Percocet.
time.
Okay, so we're down in his basement, and I think his wife was upstairs or something, and there was like 2 or 3 of us down there. Now I'm opening up a door now that I haven't touched on in a long time, so it might be a little hazy. But we're in his basement, and I remember leaning up against his fridge, and he had a needle and a spoon in between the furnace.
What are you thinking right then? Are you like, oh shit, this is about to get fucking real?
Yeah, oh yeah. Because I wasn't the first one that did it. I was just going to keep snorting it, but we had to go in the basement to do it so his wife wouldn't know. But it was him and his nephew. That's who it was. It was his nephew. And they were downstairs, and Buck shot up, and then his nephew shot up, and they had a line out for me. And I remember Uncle Buck looked at me, and he said, hey, if you want a real rush, you're going to do what we just did. And I just said, fuck it. Let's roll with it. I was like, I'm already deep. I'm sick as fuck. Just put it in me. So he pulled out the spoon. He loaded it up, got the bubble out of it. I put out my arm. He put the tourniquet on me, and away I went. Next thing I know, I'm leaning up against the fridge, my head up against it, eyes closed, room spinning. I'm feeling like I'm running through a field of flowers fucking a unicorn. Like, I felt great. Even
shit.
though I probably looked like a zombie, I felt great. And that was the start of it, man. I was puking my guts out, just from so much being in my body at once, throwing up, room spinning. And all I could think about was that next hit.
Oh, so it goes deep then on.
Oh yeah, that was
so as soon as you did that,
oh, yeah.
turning point, and it's going dark.
Oh yeah,
fuck,
it's going downhill quick.
So when does it become that one time and then daily use?
Oh, that was daily use. I was snorting daily before I started shooting.
So how did you get to that point?
How did I get to that point? Well, my buddy Jimmy, who just recently passed away about a year ago, his dad had cancer, and his dad was prescribed Roxy 30s. Well, none of us knew what they were, and these pills go for like $25 out on the streets. We didn't know that. So Jimmy was bringing these to school. This is probably sophomore, junior year, high school. He's bringing them to school, and he's selling them to me for $2. At first he was just giving them to me, like, hey, I found these I was like his guinea pig. He'd bring like a bag full of shit and just hand them to me and be like, hey, try this out. What's this feel like? Hey, try this out. What's this feel like? Hey, dude, that's antidepressant. You probably don't want to sell that. Hey, dude, that little blue pill was the shit. I want one more of those. So he's sitting here. My mom gave me $5 every day for lunch. I'm spending all of it on Jimmy. I'm getting 2 Roxys a day that go for $25 on the street. That's a pretty big pill for, $2. So I'm sitting there, and I think even one day I didn't give 2 fucks. I'm sitting there in the lunchroom, on the lunchroom table, crushing one up and snorting it. I'm like, Jimmy, get my bag, Jimmy. And so he was a bigger guy, and so he's like, all right, go. So I'm like, all the way across the table. I'm like, anybody see it? And he's like, no, dude. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, one day his dad found out that he was stealing his pills and selling them to everybody at school. So Jimmy got his ass beat, logically, because his dad knew what they were. He knew how much they were going for on the street, and I think he even asked Jimmy, hey, how much are you selling these for? And I think that's what really pissed him off. So that's when that started. And I think that was my first real withdrawal. And damn, I have a problem. But I didn't know what it was. I didn't know I didn't know anything about addiction. I didn't know anything about withdrawal. I didn't know any of it. So, I just thought I felt like shit for a couple days. So I'm like, damn, I got a cold. No, here I am. My body was addicted to pain pills, and I was going through withdrawal. So, that was that first, little incident, and that's really where it kicked off. Now, it didn't pick up hot and heavy for about another 2 years, just because, I was still doing them here and there, but I wasn't really, like, doing them. So, then I would go ahead and say my next hot and heavy, I'm going to get fucked up phase was, I want to say I just graduated from high school. And my buddy Cliff came in Matt's room, and we're all smoking some weed, and he put a little pile on a glass plate, and I was down and out. I think I was going through some shit, like my girlfriend just broke up with me or something, I was going through some shit, and I remember this little brown pile, and he said, hey, you want to feel better? And I was like, yeah, man, I want to feel better. Snort that. I was like, fuck it, all right. Didn't tell me what it was. Nothing. I fucking grabbed a fucking $1 bill because we were high rollers, and I snorted that shit up, and it tasted like dick. But next thing I knew, I felt amazing. It wasn't until about 45 minutes later I asked him. I said, "Hey man, what was that?" And he goes, "Dude, that was heroin." And I was like, at first I looked at him and I was like, "What the fuck, dude? Like, you for real just gave me fucking heroin and didn't tell me what it was?" But I didn't say anything. I just looked at him and I was like, thanks. And that's where it probably took off.
So I think that's a great point, because when you talk to people who have never been around that before, I think one of the big things they struggle with is, you watch these documentaries and things like that, and everybody sees how bad heroin is, and I think what they get to is they think of immediately somebody shooting up, and you think to yourself, how do you get to the point where you're sticking a needle in your arm? So it's nice to hear a story of like, hey, this is the natural progression, and this is how I got there, and know that it's not just a throwing shit to the wind and saying, hey, I just
I
said
just
fuck
banged
it.
some dope.
Yeah.
No, it's not like that. No,
Yeah.
there is always a natural progression. I've heard a lot of stories, and I have never heard a story where somebody's like, hey, I woke up one morning and wanted to shoot dope. No, it's not like that. And to hit on what Lee was talking about earlier, I consider weed, now, listeners out there, you might not agree with me, but I consider weed, for me, in my aspect, a gateway drug. That's what opened the door into that lifestyle.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It brought me into knowing how to buy drugs. It brought me into knowing how to smoke drugs. And it was... See, I'm trying not to piss anybody off out there, because there's a lot of people out there, like old school people that...
Not the drug itself, but the culture surrounding it.
100%.
That is a really good point, because I feel like whenever people talk the gateway talk, they're like, well, that's like saying milk leads to beer.
Right.
Cigarettes lead to crack.
Right.
But no, what it is that getting drugs is hard and a thing you learn and puts you in sketchy situations. And once you get used to being mildly sketchy, going slightly sketchier isn't that hard.
Right. And like I said earlier, I wasn't just addicted to the drugs. I was addicted to the lifestyle. I was addicted to the ritual. I don't know what gave me more of a high. Getting the drugs, going home, sneaking around, parents like, what are you doing? Oh, nothing. I'm just going to go hang out in the bathroom for 2 hours. Shit like that. And then just going in the bathroom, cooking it up on the spoon, and then going about it. I think that was because you don't get... Yeah, of course you shoot drugs to get high, but I was doing it towards the end just to feel fucking normal, I just didn't want to be sick anymore.
Body-wise,
yeah.
So just when you didn't have drugs in you, you just felt like shit.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
When you end up being that deep, what is your day-to-day starting to look like? When you're having to shoot up because you just don't feel normal anymore, what does a day-to-day start being?
You wake up in the morning not wanting to get out of bed, feeling like shit, but you have to do something in order to get some drugs. I didn't get my first legit job until I was probably 22, 21. Before that, I didn't work. I was constantly conning people. I was grinding. I was stealing, breaking into houses. Hey, Mom, I'm going to Kings Island today. Can I have $40? And I didn't come from a bad family. I didn't come from a bad background. My family loved me. My family would have done anything for me. I fucked them over, hard. And that's what it was. I didn't care who it was. I didn't give two shits. I'm fucking you over because I need some money because I got to get high. And that's what every day, every single day for 6 years, every day. That's what it was about.
Is it multiple times a day that you have to do things, or
it depends.
Once, twice? I never have known.
It depends. It all depends on how much you do at one time, or, if I got a lot, that would last me a day. If I got a little bit, it depended. I would try to get more, but sometimes it didn't work out. As long as I wasn't feeling like shit, I was okay.
So in this whole time, since you're not working, you're just needing money nonstop.
Yeah.
So every day, are you just running out of cash?
Pretty much.
And then the next day, you need to find another way to get... What are you doing to get this money?
I was either stealing from people.
What's stealing from people? Just hanging out at someone's house and grabbing something, or...
We're going to get deep. Like a B&E? Some
bacon
and eggs?
Like, what is the getting money? Like, when we say, like, getting it from people, what does that mean?
I was a smooth talker, I had friends. I had friends' moms that loved me. I had my parents that loved me. I could come up with some sob story and shed some fucking fake tears on an instant. You know what I mean? Oh my God, my car broke down. I need a new battery. Right there, $60.
Fuck.
Shit like that. But it wasn't always like that. I sold for a little while. I made some money that way. I basically was doing all my profit. Pissed some people off. Fucked up my car because I didn't pay them back. But That's the lifestyle.
That happens?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So what do you do to them? What do you mean by fucking them over? What?
Well, I had a guy. All right. So I had a guy that fronted me some dope, and he wanted me to sell it for him because he had, like, they get so much, and they don't want to hang on to all of it, and they can't tenth it out and sell it, small quantity. You get a kilo. You're not going to tenth out a kilo to fucking go sell on the streets. No, you give it to people. So I didn't have any money to buy it off the guy. I barely even knew the dude. I knew about him. He had a very bad past and may or may not have hurt some people. So it probably wasn't the smartest thing on my part, but I really didn't give a shit. So he fronted me some dope to sell for him. I flipped it a couple times doing my profit. And it got to the point where he trusted me, and he was giving me more and more and more and more. Well, therefore, if you give me more, I'm going to get deeper. So it got so deep to where I was, I can make this up a little bit. I can make that up. I can make this up, until I didn't have any more, and I couldn't pay him. So I owed him like $3,000, and he wanted his money. For a couple days, I ignored him. My phone broke. I ran out of minutes. Because it's back in the day whenever you have a minute phone.
Right.
I ran out of minutes, dude, and that right there, dude, you're selling dope for a lot of money. You can go buy some minutes. Well, I mean, it got to the point where, a week went by and he knew where I lived. And so I walked out one morning to a broken window, a milkshake on my hood, and a couple dents in my car, and a note that said, "Fucking give me my money, bitch." And I never talked to him again. I actually saw him. There's somebody that works for us, electrical company. He worked for that electrical company. He was out in the supply crib wiring up some shit for the cafeteria. And I saw him. And I talked to him.
Oh, God.
Like a normal fucking human being. He didn't bring shit up.
Did he recognize you think?
Oh, hell yeah, he recognized me. What are you talking about?
Or maybe he was as deep as you, and he's like, I'm letting that shit go, too.
I think that's what it was. I mean, honestly, I think he finally... because at this point, that was 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Right.
So, I think he was to the point where he I don't want to say didn't care, because, you don't not care about something like that, but just let go of it. Just forgave. Didn't even bring it up to him. Saw him at one of my girlfriend's son's baseball games. Didn't say shit about it. Talked to me like I was his best friend. I'm
wow.
Like, dude, this is weird.
Just trying to let it go, though.
Right. And now, you want to talk about being on the grind. Now, this happened to me a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to try to not jump back and forth too bad. But so back in the day, whenever I was hot and heavy, I was letting my dealer borrow my car. For some, he was running shit, and he was feeding me while he was using my car. I called him up and I said, "Hey, one of my buddies wants some crack." So he gave me some crack to sell to this guy, and I decided that I wanted more money. So I sold half of it, and then the other half was ivory soap.
So the people do that a lot, right? They cut it with other things to try and...
That's the way you do it. Everything's cut.
Yeah, that's so crazy to me.
If you're doing some coke, it's 100% when it comes from Colombia, but by the time you get it, it's 20%. It's stomped on with baby laxatives and all kinds of shit. So I sold this guy some ivory soap and told him it was crack. He came up to me 3 weeks ago, while I was cutting my neighbor's grass. I cut my neighbor's grass. Her name's Jo, and she's old, really old. And he comes up to me, and he comes around the corner acting like Billy Badass. And I look at him, he's an older guy. He's probably in his late to early 40s, And he had a burn mark on his lip. So I knew he was still smoking crack, and I knew he was cracked out. Because no drug addict has balls like this. After not talking to you for 4 years or whatever it was, 5 years. He comes up around the corner like Billy fucking Badass. And he goes, "So, man, I heard about your car." Oh, my car got a tree fell on it like a month ago. Just so everybody knows. But he
just a little FYI.
Right, just so you know.
Wait, didn't we talk about that?
Yeah, we talked about it.
Holy shit, it's all full circle.
So a tree fell on my car, and he comes up, and I guess he was talking to my dad about it and shit, and because he lives right around the corner, and that's what he started off with. He goes, "Hey man, I'm sorry to hear about your car. What happened?" And I told him what happened. He's like, "Well, what's insurance doing?" And I was like, "Well, they offered me $2,800, but I told them to fuck off, trying to act like fuck off, Right. But then they came back with 38, so I was like, all right, that's cool. I can deal with that. And he goes, "Man, that's shitty. By the way, do you remember that $40 you owe me?" And I'm like, "What?" I was like, dude, if you say so. Here in my head, I thought it was more like 80. So I'm like, "Sure. Yeah, I remember that 40.
This is like those bill collectors that cut it in half if you pay in full.
Exactly.
This is a deal.
So he goes, do you remember that $40 you owe me? And I was like, I don't know, dude. That was like 4 years ago, I guess. And he's like, okay, I want that. And I'm like, all right, when? And he goes, now. I'm like, fuck, dude, can I at least finish mowing the grass? So Joe pays me $35 a week to cut her grass. So she comes out. I'm halfway through. She comes out, very nice woman. She always writes a little note on my envelope, and I can never fucking understand it because it's in old person cursive. But it's nice. I understand
So
thanks.
legit.
Those
I
are
understand
so tough.
thanks and Jared. And I'm like, sweet. Whatever's in between, I don't even care.
My grandma does the same thing, and at the end of hers, she writes, love yous.
That's cute right there. I like that. So she hands me my money, and I talk to her for a second. She always brings me out a Mountain Dew, which is better than what she used to bring me. It was Diet
Piss.
root beer.
Oh, what?
No, not piss. That would be tasty.
She's getting
though.
senile, as the years have been going
She fills
by.
it up. I always thought it was lemonade.
Yeah.
So no, she brings me out a Mountain Dew, and I'm drinking it, and I'm talking to her, and finally she goes inside. I didn't want her to see this scene. I didn't want her to know what was going on. So I walk over to the guy, and I'm like, look, dude, I've got $35. I said, that's what she just gave me for mowing your grass. I don't have cash on me. Will $35 work? Yeah, man, that's awesome, dude. Thanks. I really do appreciate that. $35 is great. And it just reminded me of how shitty fucking people are, because whenever they want something from you, they're going to press down on you their fullest to get it. You know what I mean? But then once they get it, they turn into your best fucking friend. Like, hey.
Yeah. Were there other people out there that you owed money?
Oh, yeah. I owe a lot of people money. And whenever I said I closed the doors, I had to close those doors because I would be broke right now if I paid everybody back or apologized or anything like that.
When you're in the full swing, what is it costing? And I always hear
I
people
added it
lose
up.
everything. What is it?
I added it up. One time in rehab, they made us do it. I added it up, and it was like graduation money, money you stole from people, money for rehab, shit like that, and how much it was costing. I think the average rehab, if you didn't have insurance, was like $50,000, blah, 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 blah. And that's for like a 5-day detox. I was at rehabs for 30, 40 days.
Fuck you.
So if I didn't
my
have
God.
insurance, I'd have to be a millionaire. And these weren't nice rehabs. These were shitholes. But they made us add it up. And I want to say that year, after everything I stole, everything I conned, rehab, I wasn't in court at this time. All of that. Oh, and lawyers. I was in court. I did have a little incident that I want to hit on. I forgot about that. It was like 1.2 mil.
Get the fuck out of
I
here.
mean, it was a lot. I mean, dude, I went to rehab 7 times in a year and a half. I mean,
That's unbelievable.
It was ridiculous, And I mean, I shot it all up, and I sat there and I looked at that number, and while you're in front of everybody, you're kind of like bragging about it, Like everybody else is like, oh, I'm at 500,000. Oh, I'm at 700. Oh, I just started. I'm at 150. I'm like, damn, dude, you all fucking didn't do shit. I'm at 1.2, motherfuckers.
You're like, I'm gangster as shit.
Like, come on, come at me. They're like, well, how'd you get that? Well, I stole it from my parents. I stole it from my grandpa. I broke into my grandpa's safe and stole all of his guns. I've been to rehab a lot. They know me by name. I have my own special room upstairs if you guys want to see it. And I'm sitting there, and now looking back on it, I'm like, damn, I was a fuck. But I mean, just to jump back a little bit, I forgot all about this, guys. I'm sorry. I'm totally going back.
No, by all means, please do.
Like I said, I'm opening doors that haven't been opened in a really long time. So I was still a minor. I was like 15 years old, and I had a buddy named Mason, and we went over to this guy's house one day and bought some coke off of him. And it was the first time I ever done coke. So I was like, hell yeah, dude, let's do some coke. So we did some coke and hung out for a little bit and left. Well, the next day, the guy owed me money because I paid for his the day before. So we go over there, and he was like, hey, dude, I don't have your money, but I have some more coke. And this goes back on to what we just talked about stomping on it, basically cutting your shit. So this guy hands me this bag, me not knowing that he had 7 pot plants growing in his attic and 12 out back. He hands me this bag. And I took it. I was like, sweet, cool. I mean, whatever. It was $20. I'll take fucking $40 worth of coke for $20. I didn't know shit about it. Here it is, baby laxatives and shit. But whatever. I didn't have a chance to do it. So we're sitting there, and I think we were just playing some video games or some shit. And there was a knock on the door, and this was like my first ever oh fuck moment. So there was a knock on the door, and my buddy Mason, which is weird because he barely knew this guy, he was like, oh, it's cool, I'll go get it. So he goes and opens up the door. Next thing I know, there's a guy coming around the corner with a shotgun. Another guy with a revolver coming into this dude's house. They had police bulletproof vests on and ski masks. Me in this state of I'm fucking stoned right now start laughing. I'm laughing at the guys because I thought it was his buddies playing a joke on us. Here it is, the Hamilton fucking Ohio Police Department running a DA drug bust on this guy for all the pot plants that he had. And here I am with, $40 worth of fake coke in my pocket. 15 years old. So I'm laying down. The guy comes up, get the fuck on the ground, shit like that. And I'm laughing at him. I'm not fucking kidding. Get the fuck on the ground. I'm like, all right, this dude isn't playing. I better get on the fucking ground. So I'm face down on the ground. And here I am trying to dig this fake coke out of my pocket and shove it underneath the couch. He put the revolver up against my head, 15 years old, put the revolver up against my head and said, if you reach for your pocket one more time, I swear to fucking God, I'll blow your head off. I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Jesus.
So that was my first real, and that was a deep way to go into it, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't hot and heavy at this time. I was just smoking weed, doing a little drugs here and there, and here I am in a fucking police raid, having to call my parents like, hey, can you come pick me up? Oh, what happened? Well, I'm in handcuffs right now, handcuffed to a chair. They won't let me go, and they said you had to come get me. What? And my dad shows up, and he's fucking pissed. I don't even think my mom, he made me call my mom. That's what happened. He made me call my mom, tell her what happened. And I was more scared of my mom than I was my dad. My dad didn't know what the fuck to do. My mom, I'm going to beat your fucking ass, and what the fuck are you doing, and blah, blah, blah. So that was my first real experience with law enforcement. They hired actually they cashed in all my bonds that my grandma had for me stashed back so that I could hire my own lawyer. I went to juvenile court. I think they put me on like 2 weeks house arrest, which I fucking loved. I didn't have to go to school. My parents weren't there all the time, so I was just up in my room smoking weed, playing Guitar Hero. Yeah. For these 2 weeks, and the juvenile court people would drive by every now and then and make sure I was at home and knock on the door. Hey, is Jared here? I'm like, yeah, I'm right here.
Was that the first time that things started affecting your family?
I think that was the first time that they actually noticed. You know what I mean? That what I was doing. They knew I smoked here and there, but I don't think they knew the full extent of it. So, that was probably the first time that they actually...
Were there ever any other, sketchy situations that you had like that, buying drugs or anything? I don't know what it is for me, but I always feel like the process of buying drugs just seems...
I loved it.
Freaky to me.
I loved it. Oh, I fucking loved it.
Yeah, have you watched The Wire by chance?
No, I have not.
Yeah, so that's when I think about buying drugs, I just think about that outcome. Get a bunch of guys sitting on the couch in the middle of an apartment building, and you walk up to them, you do a little handshake, they hand it off to you, you hug, and then you leave. That's
for first, but you become friends with your drug dealers. Of course, they want to become friends with you because you're giving them fucking money. But it's almost like you become friends with them. You know what I mean? It's like, have you ever seen Pineapple Express?
Yeah.
Where the guy comes and he's like, shit, dude, he's just wanting to hang out and not fucking leave. That was me.
Yeah.
I was wanting to come over and kick it and smoke all your weed and pay you a little bit of money and leave. But it becomes more of a lifestyle. I loved it. I loved the anxiety that I got from it. You know what I mean?
So even the sketchiness of it all never really even freaked you out. I
felt like a straight badass.
It.
Yeah, I felt like a badass, dude, and it was ridiculous. And now looking back, I think it's pathetic. But I loved it.
That's so wild. I don't even know what to think about that.
Did you ever have any sketchy situations buying drugs, or did they all go kind of as planned?
Off the top of my head, I can't really think of one incident where it was not as planned.
Did doing drugs ever not go as planned?
Yeah, the whole fucking going and getting in a raid, that wasn't fun.
Yeah, of course.
That was a bad time. But other than that, it was pretty straightforward. I never really had a time where I was. You're always sketched out about cops, but I never really had a time where I was like, oh my God, There was one time I remember where I was driving back from Dayton, and I had just picked up a shipment for one of my buddies, and I was coming back down, and I wore Carhartt. Now, if my mom listens to this, she'll know what I'm talking about, because she hated that Carhartt, because if I put that Carhartt on, she knew what was up. So I'm driving down Route 4, and I get pulled over. And this is how much I didn't give a fuck. I get pulled over, and the cop's like, do you know why I pulled you over? Here in the back of my head, I'm thinking, well, it's probably because I have 2 ounces of heroin in my pocket and 10 needles in the other pocket. But instead, I'm like, no, I don't know. I'm cool as hell. No, I don't know why you pulled me over. He said, well, you don't have a front license plate. That's why I pulled you over. So I'm just going to give you a warning. You know? I'm like, if this motherfucker only knew, you know? But I just didn't care. I just did not care. I was like, fuck it.
Did you ever hear of anybody you knew or be around anyone you knew that had close calls on overdosing or anything?
Everybody.
Are you seeing?
Oh, yeah.
He said it so quick and so emphatically. Everybody's fucking overdosing.
Yeah, he looked at you like you were silly for even asking it.
Like, is that a stupid question?
Duh. Doesn't everybody do that?
I mean, I'm going to venture to say, knock on wood, I personally have never overdosed. Thank God. I never had gotten to that point where, you know, I was so far gone that my body shut down. That's all an overdose is your body basically can't keep up anymore, and your lungs shut down, and you can't breathe, and you die. But I mean, whenever I was in rehab and everything, I mean, yeah, everybody in there, oh yeah, I overdosed. Oh yeah, I overdosed 4 times. You know, shit like that all the time. I mean, I had a good friend that I was locked up with. His name was Adam, or not locked up with, but in rehab with. And we got really close. He was a veteran of the rehab that I had been to. He'd probably been there 4 times. And he actually overdosed and died. And the last time I went in, they told me about it, and I felt sick to my stomach. And they said, Jared, please don't let this be you.
Is that when those kind of things started happening? Is that when it started getting real dark for you? When does it get really dark?
I would say that the moment where...
Because at the beginning, from an outside observer, it all sounds like you're functioning fairly well in all this.
Oh, no, I was never functioning very well.
Well, I mean, you know, it's like the sketchiness of it wasn't that bad. Yeah,
maybe
you're
if you
kind of enjoying it.
Maybe if I would have done this like 30 days clean,
right,
I would have been like, dude, it sucked. But, I mean, I have 4 years and 5 months. You know, 4 years, 5 months, and 3 days. So, I mean, at this point, looking back, it's kind of funny to me, honestly, that I was really like that. You know, it's sad, too. I would say that the part that where
because you feel so far removed,
right? Yeah. I would say that when I really thought that it was bad was I used to work for a company, and we were traveling a lot, and I would paint exterior warehouses. So some of these jobs would take 3 months. Well, the first one we did was in Philadelphia. The second one was in Baltimore, and then the third one was in Indianapolis. And during this whole time, I didn't see my family. So I was gone for like 7 months living in hotels. And I think a part of that, it was me knowing the road that I was going down and just trying to escape, you know, trying to run away. Because I never thought it was me. It was everybody around me, you know what I mean, that were fucking me up. But there was, I remember getting to Philadelphia, and I knew right off rip how to find drugs. I mean, you find the dirtiest, nastiest homeless guy you can find on the streets and just say, hey, dude, I'll throw you an extra 20 if you go find me blah, blah, blah. You know, so I did that. I was in the south side of Philadelphia, and we found a guy, and we said, hey, dude, we're looking for some heroin. And he hurried up and popped up, and but me too. I was like, dude, I'll give you $20 if you go find us some dope, and I'll buy your dope for the day. So I handed him $150. And, I mean, you don't really have to be sketched out about this situation because he wants you to come back. You know, you're feeding him. So I remember finding this guy, and we were going back and forth with him for days. And I remember walking into a CVS, and I just threw him some sob story about how I was a diabetic, and I'm from Ohio, and I don't have my medical card, and I ran out of insulin needles. Can you please help me? They handed me a bag of 50 needles, and I was like, jackpot!
Are you kidding? That's crazy.
Yeah. Just not even thinking about it. Just handed me a bag full of needles, and I mean, you're on the East Coast over there, dude. It's cheap, and you get a lot for your money. So I started getting real deep then, and I was making like $25 an hour, working like 70 hours a week. And I mean, I was living in a hotel. I had no friends out there. So basically all I was doing was going to the strip clubs and shooting dope. And that was it. And I didn't think it was really a problem until I got back. And, well, no, there was one incident in Baltimore. I remember I had a weekend where I don't know why, but I decided I wanted to smoke some crack. Never smoked crack before in my life. I remember I got paid $1,300 on a Friday, and by Monday I was broke with no laptop. So I kept blowing this guy up all weekend, just hitting him hard, spending money, and finally I ran out and I was like, dude, can you front me? He was like, dude, I don't fucking know you. He was like, why the fuck would I front you? So I'm like, fuck, this isn't like Ohio. I got a laptop. I was like, will you trade me my laptop for some crack? And he was like, sure, dude, yeah, for sure. So after that, I don't think he really wanted to do it, because after that he never really hit me up. I'd only met this guy 2 days prior. I knew where he lived, but I was always sketched out going over there until finally 4 o'clock in the morning hit, and I just said, fuck it. And I went up to this dude's house in the middle of the ghetto in Baltimore, beating on his door at 4 o'clock in the morning, wanting some crack. He answered that door pissed. But I mean, right there, that's crazy. He could have opened that door and shot me in the fucking face, but I didn't care. I was like, hey, dude, I got that laptop if you want it. He was like, dude, sure, just give it to me. And really all he wanted me to do was get the fuck off his porch. So he gave me that, and I mean, that was crazy. And I was probably hitting my parents up Tuesday for more money, just because that's how I was. You know, I'd throw them some dumbass sob story about how, you know, my boss fucked me over and I didn't get a full paycheck, and, you know, my parents are giving people and they're caring, and, you know, they would throw me like another $200 and be like, oh, he's 14 hours away, let's throw him some more money. It was crazy, dude. And so that went on for a little while, and I remember I came back and I was full blown junkie at this point. And I remember I was in my parents' closet digging through a shoebox that used to belong to my passed away grandma who died in 2001, and it was all of her jewelry. And I knew it was in there. Pawn shops were my favorite place to go, by the way. I love pawn shops. So I'm digging through this shoebox, and I'm picking out all this jewelry and shit. I'm like, yeah, and I'm checking to make sure it's real gold. And my brother comes walking in, and he turns the corner, and he looks at me. He's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? And I was like, nothing. I'm just looking at some of Nanny's old jewelry. You know, I was like, I just miss her so much.
Does he know that you're a junkie at this point?
No, he doesn't know. I mean, he knows we used to smoke weed together and shit, but he doesn't know full blown that the depth that I went to. Yeah, he doesn't know that the depth that I went to. I mean, it's like 90 degrees outside, and I'm wearing hoodies and shit. I mean, that's a pretty good inclination to me. But so he's sitting there, and he's like, "What are you doing, dude?" And I'm like, "Oh, you know, I'm trying. I miss Nanny so much, and I'm digging through her shoebox, and I'm just looking at some of her old stuff." And I guess he went downstairs and told my mom, and my mom probably didn't really think anything of it. But then the next day, she comes up to me and she goes, "Hey, I just went through Nanny's shoebox." And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "What the fuck happened to it all?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Her wedding ring's gone, her class ring's gone, you know, all this shit." And I was just like, I don't know. No idea. I don't know where the fuck that shit went. And, I stole it all. I took it to the pawn shop, you know. There's so many valuables that my parents own that I stole that it's not even funny. They can never get them back again. My dad's class ring, I got fucked on that, by the way. I was pissed. This thing weighed a lot. It was a big-ass gold ring. I got probably like $100 for it, when really it was probably worth like $8. So, I mean, that's probably right there where my parents and my family finally started figuring out what the fuck was going on.
Where does that go?
Trip to rehab. A trip to rehab. I went downstairs that day that my mom called me out about it, and I was sick as fuck. And I'd only been back from Indianapolis for, you know, probably 3 weeks. And, I mean, I'm sure they had an idea why I was gone, what was up. You know, I'm blowing $1,300 in 3 days. You know, they know something's up. And I broke down crying, man. I was like, Mom, I've got an issue. I was like, and I don't know how to fix it. So that was my first time I ever went to rehab. And it was a rehab in Tennessee. I have a house right outside Nashville. or family farm, and the place was called New Life Lodge. And I remember that I was there for 40 days, and the whole time I wanted to leave. I hated it. Mom, Dad, I got this. Breaking down crying, talking to my counselor, begging them to let me go. And here it is. That was just the addiction inside of me, just telling me to go, because it still wanted to do what it wanted to do. But here I am. I knew I had an issue. I knew that there was something wrong. So that was my first time I ever really got educated on the disease of addiction.
But that didn't stop you.
No, it didn't stop me. It's a fucking bitch, dude. It'll grab you and fucking carry you forever if it can.
So what happens after you leave the first rehab?
I lived in the family farm in Tennessee for about, I'd say 3 months. They brought me my car down and shit like that. And I lived there for a little while. And I remember I was going back and forth from my cousin's house because I had family down there. And I really didn't understand that I had to quit everything if I wanted to stop doing the one thing. Because I still thought, I can still smoke some weed. Oh, I can still drink. That's the socially acceptable stuff. I was never addicted to that. I can still smoke some weed. So here I am, smoking pot with my cousin, and my mom would come down like every couple of weeks just to buy me groceries and make sure I was all right. They wanted me to get a job. I was like, fuck that, I'm not getting a job. And they would come down and they'd make sure I had food and gas, and they'd give me they didn't fully trust me, which they shouldn't have. So they'd give me those Speedway gas cards and shit like that, or Visa cards. That went on for a long time. I don't think I ever saw cash from them after that moment. So I was living down there, and I was still smoking weed with my buddy, or my cousin. And finally I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to fucking be down here anymore. My family's in Ohio. I'm 6 hours away. So I called my dad, and I was like, dude, can I come home? And, he was like, yeah, if you really want to come home, you can come home. Because it was my decision to stay down there. I wanted to get away. And he said, yeah, you can come home. That's fine. So I was like, all right, cool. So I remember he came down a weekend, filled my tank up. I had my car down there. I think that is the fastest trip I have ever taken. I made it back from Nashville to Ohio in 3.5, 4 hours. I was hauling ass, didn't stop once, and that was only because I wasn't done. I don't think I was back in town for 3 hours before I was high again. And
so you searched it out right away?
I think I fucking had it planned out before I even hit Kentucky.
Driving home, you're already saying,
oh, yeah.
I'm going to get in contact with this person and buy this stuff.
Well, it wasn't necessarily like that. It was more of, I want to show them how good I'm doing. I want to show them, that I'm different now. So I don't think, in the back of my head, I knew I was going to get high, but I think my intentions were to basically just reach out to them and say hi, But I knew that's where the drugs were at. They were selling them to me. You know what I mean? You don't go to the fucking drug dealer's house to say, hey, dude, I'm clean.
To say what's up.
Right, exactly. So, it wasn't 3 hours after I got back home. I was back on the train, man.
Just getting right back with the old people, though. I think that's probably an important
we'll hit that
takeaway, right?
Yeah. We'll hit that.
Removing yourself from the situation helped to a point, so.
Yeah.
So after that one rehab, you immediately get right back deep into it. You end up going to rehab 7 times, right?
Yeah, I was in rehab 7 times. I went to New Life Lodge once, and then that was way too much fucking money because my insurance wouldn't cover it. I think my dad just literally paid it off, and that was fucking forever ago. And then after that, I frequented Columbus a lot. So it was 7 trips to rehab, 2 halfway houses, and a prison sentence before I finally got the idea hey, maybe this isn't the life you want to fucking live.
What lands you in prison?
After I got back from rehab, the last time, I was doing good for a little while, man. I don't want to say that I was a complete fuck up because I got 5 months and I was proud, man. I was really proud. But I wasn't to the point yet where I was ready to take myself out of that situation. I wasn't ready to completely, dissolve everybody in my life and my whole lifestyle. So I had 5 months, and I decided that I wanted to just shoot up one more time. Just one more time. That's all I wanted. One more good fucking high. And so I did that. It led on to other shit, and I started back on the same road, and I decided it would be a good idea to stage a break-in on my parents' house. I knew where everything was at that was valuable. I just never had the balls to take it. So I go in the backyard and I grab a BB gun. And I'm sitting there, and I had forgotten that my dad replaced the back window with, one of those high-strength plexiglass windows. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, I'm going to shatter the window, and I'm going to act like I broke in. I have gloves on. I'm straight, like, ski masked out on my own fucking house. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, one good shot with the butt of this BB gun is over. So I remember I rear back, and I hit it as hard as I could, and nothing fucking happened. I'm like, what the fuck is this window made out of? And so I hit it again, nothing happened. Hit it again, nothing happened. I'm like, fuck, this isn't gonna fucking work. By this time, I'm hellbound, dude. I'm determined. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking do this. So I stripped off all the fucking, stripping around the window that held it in, and I took the glass out. I just said, fuck it, I'm taking it out. So I did it that way, and then I remember I went downstairs into my basement, and I knew that's where my dad kept all of his guns. And he just had them in, one of those shitty lock boxes with a padlock on it. So I took a pair of bolt cutters and I cut the lock on it, and I opened it up, and he had AR-15s, shotguns, rifles, pistols, a whole collection from his past, also antique guns. I stole it all. It came out to be 7 guns. I took all that shit. I was like, fuck it. After everything they did for me, and now thinking back on it, how big of a fucking piece of shit do you have to be? He paid for me to go through all my fucking rehabs trying to help me out. Damn. And I fucking just said, fuck it. I'm going to rob this motherfucker blind. I didn't care. The only person I cared about was me. I didn't give 2 shits. So I'm sitting there and I'm hauling all this shit out to my car, and I was like, wait, they have a safe. I'm gonna get the safe. So I go and I grab the safe. My parents are at work. Like I said, I didn't have a job, so I had all day to fucking do this shit. So I'm out in the garage with a fucking sledgehammer and a screwdriver trying to bust this fucking safe open, and I couldn't fucking do it. I had no idea what was in it. Not a clue. I just knew I wanted in it. Couldn't get it open. So there was a guy that lived across the street from me that I used to buy a lot of drugs off of, and we used to, do shit together. And I called him up and I said, hey, his name was Spider. To this day, I still don't know what the fuck his name is. I said, hey, dude, I have 7 guns and a fucking safe I just stole from my fucking parents. They can't see me with it whenever they get home. I need to give it to you so you can get rid of it. He's like, all right, I can do that. This is a guy I thought I could trust, my what's it called, co-defendant or whatever.
Yeah.
So, or a partner, you know what I mean? He's my partner. So I go and I load the back of his van down with all this shit, and I'm like, how long do you think it's going to take to get rid of it? Not long, dude. I'll just get rid of it for you, and I'll bring you half the money. I was like, that's fine. Just bring me half. I don't even give a shit. I just need something. I said, bring me half of it and some dope. And he said, all right, I can do that. Never heard from him again. Straight fucked me over. I went to prison for him fucking me over. But I didn't care. I was to the point where I was ready. I knew I was ready. I knew deep down I was ready to get my life under control. I went down to the station. This was 2 or 3 days later. The detective comes to the house, and I'm like, my parents know that,
Are you shitting your pants when these people are coming to your house? Or are you knowing this is going to go bad? Or are you I'm going to get away with this?
I mean, there was a slight thought that I would get away with it, but I knew I was going down. And it didn't help that I stole my mom's credit card a day later to go buy some shit. So, of course, she calls the detective hey, I think Jared might have done this because he just stole my credit card. And so the detective calls me, and he's like, hey, I need you to come down and write a statement. And I'm like, all right, I can come down and write a statement, So I shoot up so I'm not sick, and I go in there. And I wasn't even in there 30 seconds. Not even 30 seconds. I'm fucking bawling just from all this guilt on my shoulders and just ready to let it all go. I've been lying to my parents for days, and I'm just ready to fucking let it go. So I just break down fucking crying. It was me. I fucking did it, and told him exactly how I did it and everything else. And he stands up and he looks at me and he goes, I'm going to go outside and turn on the recorder. I need you to say that again. I'm like, you motherfucker. I'm like, whatever, dude. So he walks out, and he comes back in, and we go through the whole fucking shebang, and
that guy got promoted after that.
probably because he
He
told
got
me
the confession. He's the
fucking-
master.
He should have been demoted for not turning the tape recorder on in the beginning.
Right.
Like,
Well, he fucking lied to me because he was like, if you tell me the truth, I'll let you go home tonight. Which he thought that I had hired or told Mike and Spider, they were either, I don't know if they were brothers or what the fuck they were, but, you know, I'm 20 at this time, 19, and they're fucking like 50, you know? So I don't know what the fuck they were. They might have just been friends.
wait, so think about this, though. So this is the scenario, Ryan. This is you.
Okay.
So you're going to admit to me, I'm the police guy,
Okay.
and then admit it to me. So I'd be like, all you have to do is admit that you did it. Tell me you did it.
I did it.
Wait, say it again.
I did it.
Can you just lean forward slightly?
I did it.
Hold on, I'll be right back. Let me just record that. Speak loud and clear. He just really kills the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
He's like, no, but I'm sorry, and I did it. Hold on, stop there. Say that again, please.
I did it.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, pretty much that's exactly how it went down. And I even looked at him and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, seriously, this is about to happen again? Because I didn't have the emotion behind it that I did before. I felt like I was, you know, unprivileged, or it was taken away from me. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I just killed it, and you fucking just fucked me over.
You fucked up my big moment.
Right, exactly.
My soliloquy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I was like,
piece of shit.
that was my moment in life, dude, and you just fucking stole it
What
from
an
me.
idiot. Who was that guy? Let's find him. I'm
Right.
Just kidding.
But anyway, now you made me forget where I was living.
So you're telling about the confession.
Oh, okay. So I confessed to the guy, and Mike and Spider, they fucking stole all my shit, and they actually thought that, well, they technically didn't steal it. I pretty much gave it to them. But the guy told me, he said, I was going to let you, the detective, he said, I was going to let you go home. I didn't want to lie about that. But I honestly thought that you hired them to come in and take all your shit. I didn't know you did it and gave it to them. So that was my first trip to jail. I'm fucking detoxing and on a metal slab, you know, not knowing what to do with my life. They bring me, I don't think I ate for 2 days, you know. I went to court all fucking shackled up like I just fucking murdered somebody. I walk in and I look over and my mom and I didn't even call my mom and dad. You know how they give you like the one call? I didn't even call them. I didn't know what to say. I felt so fucking bad for what I did and so guilty. I didn't know what to say to them, and I didn't want to hear what they had to say to me. I didn't know if they were going to call me a piece of shit or anything. And I mean, you hear that stigma about jail. You got to be a hard ass. I broke that shit because the next day I'm still dope sick as fuck. I barely even remember it. I got a call on my cell. You know, they called up to the cell and they were like, "Hey, you have a visitor." I'm thinking I'm going to go into like a little room and fucking talk to somebody. Nope. You sit down in front of a camera and you have a fucking TV screen. And it's my parents on the other side, bawling their eyes out. Fucking just, and they weren't mad at all. They weren't mad. They were happy. They were happy that I was locked up. They knew where I was at, and they knew I was safe. I, on the other hand, was fucking bawling like a little bitch with everybody else in there, all these hard-ass wannabe gangsters. Fucking, yeah, motherfucker, you know, this place I just work out all day, you know, whatever. Yeah, baby mama, what's up? You know, shit like that. And I'm sitting here, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do it. I don't know what's wrong with me. You know, shit fucking just pouring. And then I slept for a couple days because I was detoxing and it sucked. And then I remember I went and got an OR bond. And what an OR bond is basically, hey, we'll let you out on your word that whenever court comes around, basically they're just trying to free up space for the people that really need to fucking be there. So he said, the judge said, I'll give you an OR bond if you do what you need to do, report to probation, don't piss dirty on anything, and then whenever court comes around, we'll figure out your sentence. My dad wanted to drop the charges, but the state said, fuck you, this is a big fish. I think I was even on the news. They said, fuck you, we're picking them up. So I had to go through the whole process and everything. And one of my stipulations after I got out was that my mom actually had to beg for it, was to let me go back to rehab to, you know, just try it one more time. This was my 6th time back in rehab. I got out, and I was living at a halfway house after I got out. I think it was only like a 30-day program. I did good for a couple weeks. But I started right back on the same road I was doing. I mean, you think after that, I'd be done. No, I wasn't done at all. I was still fucking hot and heavy, dude. I was ready to go again. And in Columbus, they have different heroin than what we have. They have what they call black tar heroin. Down here, it's that white China powdery shit. This was black tar heroin. So I mean, it was.
That's what my mom does.
Yeah, it's some shit. It's some shit. That's all I gotta say about it. So I'm sitting there and I'm still shooting this shit and fucking getting all fucked up, and I even had my roommate who was like heavy Christian, had like 9 months and shit. He was calling my parents, taking pictures of me nodding out on the couch and shit, and saying, "This is what your son's doing right now." And I mean, my parents were, I don't think they knew what to do. I don't think they really knew. Of course, they were like, "What the fuck? Again?" But they didn't know how to help me. So I wasn't done. I was still shooting. I was coming down every once in a while and pissing for the probation officer. And finally it came time, and I knew I was fucking dirty. And I fucking came down, and I told her, "Hey, I'm fucking dirty. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. I don't even have to piss in that. I'll tell you everything that's in my system because it'll come up anyways." "Well, we still have to piss test you." I'm like, "Fuck, all right, whatever." So I pissed, and I think it came up with like weed and heroin. And they let me leave. I thought I was going back to jail. They let me leave. They were like, "All right, go on. I'll just report it to the judge." So they did that. I think I pissed dirty 2 more times before my court date was, because they sentenced that shit out like 6 months. So court date rolled around, and I remember, no, they made me go back to rehab after the second time pissing dirty. I went back to rehab to detox, so I wouldn't have to detox in jail, because the probation officer basically told me I was getting locked up. So they let me go to rehab and detox, and they actually came and picked me up from detox and took me to the courthouse, which they had to do. I would have definitely gotten high.
Right.
I remember I'm getting out of the car, and at this point I want to be done, but it's kind of like the addict in me is still wanting to do it. You know what I mean? I look at my dad square in his face like, "Hey, you just hurt yourself, didn't you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You got some Vike 750s, don't you?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "This could be like my last little shebang. You want to, give me a couple of those?" I don't know if he laughed or was mad. I can't remember, but the answer was no. I was pissed. I was like, "Fuck. All right, Dad, whatever." So I go in, and I was happy. Because I wanted to be done.
Because you're about to serve how long?
I did a year. 9 months and some change, so almost a
year. So you knew the next year you're pretty much going to be forced to be cleaned.
Well,
and you were almost happy about that.
Yeah. I mean, fuck, dude, I wasn't happy, but I was okay with it. Because, I mean, it's what I needed to do. You get to that point where you're just so done, you're ready to do whatever the fuck it takes, And then I went to meetings, and I did all that shit, and it never fucking worked for me. It just put me in a room full of people that had the same problem I did, and if they went back out, I went back out, So I was happy. I was happy in a way, yeah. So I go in, and they call my name, and I go up front, and I'm standing in front of the judge, and his nickname was Blast Off Nastoff. So I knew I was gone, which my original sentence was 3 to 5. But they reduced it since my dad and everybody, since it was my family, my dad told them that they didn't want me to do the full sentence. So he reduced it to, and this sounds bad because it just made me feel real shitty about what I attempted to do. They reduced it from, what was it, burglary, basically a B&E burglary, to attempted burglary. So not only did I steal all their shit, I did it really shittily too. I attempted to rob their ass. So I told people about that whenever I got locked up, and they all told me I was a bitch because I didn't succeed in it. I'm like, well, I succeeded. I did it, but so they I thought I was going to at least go back and be able to hug my family. And this was a very sad moment, and they came up, and they handcuffed me and started taking me to the door. and I didn't even get to talk to my family. I turned around and looked at him. My mom's bawling. My dad doesn't cry, and he's tearing up and shit. And they were the only two that were there. But my mom, she was a great woman. She still is. I mean, she would fucking go to war with God for me. You know what I mean? That's how she was. I remember one time. This was after I already robbed him and everything. They knew what was going on, and I escaped. I escaped the house because they had me on fucking lockdown. And they didn't want me going anywhere. I told them I had to use the bathroom. And I climbed out of a little, 2-foot window and dropped down 9 feet head first to escape. My mom followed me down to the drug dealer's house because she knew where he lived. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, Mom? I'm sitting there on the porch talking to the drug dealer about to, buy some shit. And she's like, get the fuck in the car. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, Mom, that's my drug dealer. I don't give a fuck who he is. Get the fuck in the car. Tell him to come out in the fucking driveway and I'm going to run his ass over. Jeez. This is legit. This for real happened. I'm sitting there like, he could come out here and shoot you. For real. But she didn't care.
She's just so over it.
Oh, yeah. 100% over it, And she drugged me into the house that night after I got in. I was like, fine, chill the fuck out, I don't want you to die. I don't want him to die, I'm going to get in the car. I think that's the right answer. Let's get in the fucking car and let's go. So we get back, and I had the Carhartt on, and she literally, you might know this hold, wrapped the hood all the way around her arm 5 times. 5 fucking times, dude, and drug me back into the fucking house because I was trying to get away. I was like, no, I'm hellbound. I'm getting high. Fuck you guys. Previously that day, this was the shittiest day. This is probably where I knew fucking shit was over. What was it? I had my dad. First it was my brother chasing me down the road trying to get me to come back home because I was moving out. I was done. I was going to be homeless. I was to that point where I didn't give 2 fucks about where I lived. If I had somewhere to live, they didn't want me there. My brother chased me down the road, and he kind of put his arm around my shoulder, bawling his eyes out, begging me to come back home. And I looked at him square in his face after everything I've stolen from him, everything I've done done to him. I looked at him square in his face and said, I don't give a fuck about you, and I don't give a fuck about this family. I'm a lost fucking cause. I might as well just fucking die. And I kept fucking walking, and he stood there and let me go. Because there was nothing he could do, And I guess he went back home and told my dad, and here comes my dad down the road. And he's fucking, like I said, he doesn't cry, but he's sitting there bawling his fucking eyes out. And just come back home. Just come back home. And I'm like, no, you don't need me there. I'm fucking gone, dude. I'm a lost fucking cause. I'm fucking gone. I was like, rehab 7 times, about to go to prison. I was like, I'm done. I'm ready to die. Just let me fucking go. And so they changed the locks on the doors, and I tried to go back home that night. Couldn't get in. Finally, they let me in, and then it was the next day that my mom took advantage of it. My mom wasn't crying. My mom was pissed. And that's whenever she went down there and fucking dragged me in, and that's whenever she called the probation officer and convinced them to let me go back into detox for a week before my court date. So yeah, that was the last fucking incident where I knew I was a fucking piece of shit. I mean, straight up piece of fucking shit. So
you go into prison probably not feeling, you couldn't feel any worse.
In a sense, yeah, I felt like shit, yeah.
Was that the turnaround?
Yeah.
All that, the culmination of the stealing, the running away, the situation with your brother, which had to be
it was
crazy.
brutal. I mean,
that sounds brutal.
It was brutal.
So I mean, that's someone you've grown up with,
right?
That loves you probably more than anybody,
right? He used to sit in my room, and I didn't know this until probably 2 years ago. I was already cleaning everything. He used to come in my room. He had to get up and work at 6 o'clock in the morning every day. He would come in my room for 3 hours at night, from 3 to 5, 2 to 5, and just stand there and watch me and make sure I was breathing, because I was that deep that he even come in a couple times and had to pick cigarette butts off of my bed from where I would just nod the fuck out and burn big ass holes in my bed and shit. And I mean, my parents were a big influence, but he was probably the main reason. Because I always heard that if you can't get clean for yourself, get clean for somebody else. And I couldn't do it for myself. I didn't fucking care about myself. So he was probably one of the main reasons why I got clean. It's because I looked up to him. He was successful. He had 2 jobs, making money, buying whatever the fuck he wanted. I'm sitting here fucking dope fiend, just shooting fucking dope every day, all day. So he was a big one.
So you're in prison.
Yeah.
Are you, as soon as you get in, are you like, I'm done, I wish I wasn't here because I'm ready to be done with it? Or are you like, I'm just going to do my time, and when I get out of here, it's a different day? What are you thinking going in prison? What is it prison about to be for you?
Honestly, going into prison, I wasn't thinking about drugs or anything. I was thinking about what the fuck is this about to be like? Because, I mean, you hear the stigmas and shit like that. And,
right.
Oh, Bubba's going to fuck you in the ass, type shit.
We've all watched Lockup before.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. See? That's how it was going to be. I'm fucking terrified at this time. I am fucking shitting my pants. Now, I had that little week stint in jail. So, I mean, that's really all I knew. So, they told me I was going to do my time. And the whole entire time I'm thinking, I'm like, damn, that's a long time. That's a fucking long time to be doing that shit. Just sitting in a fucking room. I think that's really all that was going through my head. So, I remember I was in a cell waiting on the Bluebird to come pick me up and take me wherever the fuck I was going. I don't even tell you where you're going. And I was still wanting to break the rules. So somebody had some cigarettes. Well, tobacco. Don't ask how they got it in. And I'm sitting there, and I was trying so hard for like 2 weeks trying to figure out how I was going to smoke some cigarettes. So I'm sitting there, and everybody else plunges their toilet, and it creates like a vacuum that sucks all of the smoke out. Well, I didn't know that. So I'm sitting there hotboxing some fucking cigarettes in my cell. They're not vented or anything. And the guard comes walking by, the CO, and he cracks my door, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I played it all like, I'm not doing nothing. My whole fucking cell smelled like fucking cigarettes. And so they shake down the whole entire fucking pod. And the sergeant comes up to me, and they do their own like little, sentencing and shit like that in there. And of course, you go to the hole. So he told me what was happening, what was going to happen. They shook down the whole fucking pod, and the guy that I bought the cigarettes from got caught with the cigarettes. And his name was Blaze. And the only reason why I know his name was Blaze is because he had it tattooed real big across his neck.
Nice.
So,
I thought he was about to say Blade. I was like, what the fuck
fucking
movie
Vampire Slayer.
What movie is this?
How did you light the cigarettes?
It's called popping a socket. So what you do is you take a pencil, and you strip all the lead out of it, and you basically take a Q-tip or a piece of toilet paper, and you kind of set it there, but then once you drop the lead in between the 2 prongs of a light socket, like for your TV, it creates a giant spark, and it can either A, light your piece of whatever, or B, piss everybody off because it's going to blow every fucking breaker in the building.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, I got A, and it lit, and that's how you light your cigarette.
I lit my cigarette, but I fucked my TV.
More or less. And people in there doing it before because, like, there's burn marks all over the fucking socket and shit, and, so that's how you, you learn a lot of survival shit whenever you're in there.
But you guys get shook down, and now you're headed to the fucking hole.
Now I'm heading to the hole and got somebody busted, and he's about to be my bunkie. So that was a bad situation. I'm sitting there, and he just kept fucking with me. And I mean, this is a bigger dude, and I'm sitting here, a $130, fucking dope fiend, no muscle at all. Been sitting on my ass shooting dope for fucking, 4 years or whatever it was. And it never got physical, but eventually I think he was there for maybe like 4 days, and then they finally switched my pod, so I could kind of like chill out.
They probably knew shit was brewing.
Probably. It was about to be bad. I think he was just like in his head, like, thinking about, because he's a meth head. Meth heads are crazy, dude. They're fucking nuts. If you stay up for fucking 8 days straight, there's something psychologically going on in there.
Yeah, you're bound to be crazy.
Yeah, so this dude was fucking nuts. And if you're gonna get Blaze tattooed across your fucking neck, big as fuck from
Also
one side
crazy.
to the other,
Yes.
that's not somebody to fuck with. I saw him not too long ago at Myers. He still fucking looked like a dope fiend, but he didn't recognize me, so that's all that matters. So instead, my new bunkie was a like 350-pound white dude who was redneck as fuck and snored like a fucking bear. And all you can do in the hole, I mean, you're on 23-hour lockdown. You know, I got out for 1 hour a night, and that was it. I wasn't allowed commissary. I was allowed making a phone call once a week. Luckily, one of the CEOs knew my brother, so he would come in on second shift, and I got to talk to him, and he would, you know, we'd communicate. I'd communicate to my brother through him. His name was Turco, and that was very nice, you know. So I had a lot of time. I was in there for 45 days. I had a lot of time to think, you know, about what I did. I read a lot. I hate reading. I read a lot. But I had a lot of time to think about what I was going to do with my life and what I really wanted. You know, I actually made out a list of all the people that I fucked over and who I was going to make amends to. I probably made amends to about half of them because I got smarter while I was in there and I didn't want to incriminate myself. So, I mean, if somebody comes up wanting to talk about it, you know, I can go ahead and apologize, but I don't want to go into too big of detail to where it sends me back. So I was in county for probably about a couple months because they won't transport you out if you're in the hole, and I already did like 3 weeks in general population, and then I got sent to the hole for 45 days, so it was like 2 days after I got out of the hole, they sent me away. Some people would say that the prison I went to wasn't really a prison, it was a kiddie camp, but I don't give a fuck. They told me when I was going to eat. They told me when I was going to shit. They told me where I was going at this time, when I could go outside and play basketball, and when I could watch TV. And I was surrounded by barbed wire friends. To me, that's fucking prison, you know? So I did 7 months there, and it let me see how people acted, how other people like me acted. And some of them wanted to do what I wanted to do, and some of them treated it like it was a fucking game. You know, they were in and out, and, oh, I've been locked up, 10 times, or, oh, I've done this, or, oh, and I didn't want to do that.
What would you said, what you wanted to do, so by the time you got out of the hole, you're done.
Oh, yeah, by the time I got out of the hole, I knew that my mind was set that I was not going back to where I came from. You know, that was a straight fucking hell, you know what I mean? And I never wanted to fucking do that again. So, I'm sitting in prison, and I mean, I remember they call them green beans because whenever you go in for the first week, you have to wear a green jumpsuit, and then after that, you get your uniform. So I'm sitting there as a green bean, and I'm just thinking about all this fucking time that I'm about to do, and I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do for 7 fucking months? You know what I mean? And you know, you hear all the stories about Bubba and shit like that, and it wasn't like that. I mean, as long as you stick to yourself and you fucking do what you gotta do and you don't fucking cross anybody, everybody leaves you the fuck alone. Now, if you want to go in there acting like a little punk-ass motherfucker, yeah, they're gonna fuck with you. But I went in, I made friends with the older crowd, the people that, you know, had been there a while and knew, you know, what I was going through the same shit I was and had my back, and, you know, it went by pretty quick. I mean, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I missed my family. But I used that time to kind of focus on myself, you know, kind of think back about all the shit I did and just think about what I wanted to be. You know, I just wanted to be a productive member of society. I wanted to be my brother. You know what I mean? I wanted to be that guy that if you needed something, he was there. You know, not always just looking out for myself, because that's all I did. I didn't give a fuck about anybody else. The only person I cared about was me. You know, and I think that's really laid over a lot into who I have become, you know, and I'm proud of who I've become. I mean, I feel like I have a big heart, and, you know, that's all I ever wanted.
So when you get out of prison first day, you know you have to stay away from everybody, right?
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
I mean, the only way to stay clean after that is to cut off anyone and everyone. What do you do?
Cut off all fucking ties.
So when you get out of prison, the first thing you're doing is not getting in contact with any of the whole crowd, right?
No, I don't think. I told my dad. My dad asked me if I wanted my phone back. I told him no. I didn't have a cell phone for like a month after I got out, just because I didn't want that temptation. They have a program whenever I was in where you had to have a job by the time you left, or else they wouldn't let you out. So I remember I got a job at Jimmy John's, and I hadn't talked to anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I even set up an account for my paychecks. They weren't going into my account. They were going into my dad's account because I didn't want money. I did not want the temptation. I didn't want the cash. I didn't want any of that. I don't even think I didn't have my own bank account for like 3 years after I got out. It was all straight going through my dad. And if I needed cash, I had to have a good fucking reason why I needed some cash. Other than that, he gave me a debit card. He could track all the funds I was making. I didn't even have an ATM code on it. I didn't want it. So, I mean, basically, I sacrificed everything in life to be who I am today. I cut off all ties with everybody else. I cut off that whole lifestyle, the whole way of thinking. I just fucking demolished it all and just started fresh, which is what you need to do. You just need to put it all down, say fuck everybody, and just fucking do you, stick with your family, fucking the people that love you. Matt, who I mentioned earlier, was my best fucking friend. He was like my fucking brother. We hung out every fucking day. I haven't talked to Matt in 5 years. I even cut him out. Just because I saw him at Jimmy's funeral, but I barely talked to him, and he's still doing the same shit he was doing before. See, everybody was doing the same shit that they were doing before. It's just I took it to a whole new level. You know what I mean? They all stuck with pot, and I fucking started shooting heroin. Right. I mean, I was a piece of shit. They didn't want fucking anything to do with me either.
So you kind of thought the gateway theory-wise that even the weed-smoking people are probably going to pull you back down the wrong road.
Yeah, because, I mean, I tried it so many times. I mean, there were so many times whenever I would just smoke a blunt, and then it would lead right back to heroin. Or I would drink a beer, and it would lead to smoking pot, and then it would lead straight back to heroin. You know, it just opened that door back into that lifestyle.
What keeps you clean now?
I would say family, my own personal ambitions, my girlfriend, for sure. We have a son on the way.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Having a kid's awesome.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a scare today.
Yeah, you almost didn't make it here.
Yeah, I almost did not. She thought that her water broke, and it hadn't, and the doctor told her it's probably just our little baby boy kicking her in the bladder.
Yeah.
So
false alarm. You just peed your pants.
Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, I was fucking nervous, dude, going in there because I never thought about that kind of shit whenever I was using. I never thought I was going to have a family. I never thought about a wife. I never thought about a girlfriend, anything like that. And now it's like I don't focus on me anymore, I focus on what I can do to help other people and make other people happy and make their lives easier. I have everything I need. I think I was out of prison for 2 months living at my parents' house, and I bought a 55-inch flat screen TV. I was like, fuck yeah.
You're like, I made it.
I'm there. This is all I need right here. 2 months later, I bought an Xbox. I'm like, this is it. I'm living Derek's lifestyle, being able to buy whatever the fuck I wanted. This is life right now.
Right.
But now I don't need anything, man. I don't need anything to make me fucking happy. All I want to do is make other people happy and be there to help other people. Because for so long, I solely focused on me.
Was there any hesitation from your family to celebrate?
What do you mean?
Like they've seen you come out of a rehab, be good for a little while, get back in, be clean, get back in. Was there a certain amount of time where they're almost like hesitating, like,
I think,
do we celebrate this yet and say he's out of the woods?
Right. I think my sister waited a good year and a half.
Damn.
Before she actually believed that I could do this.
She's holding a grudge.
Oh yeah, she held a heavy fucking grudge. Well, I missed her daughter being born, my first niece. I was all fucked up and shit, and I missed that, and I was there for Lorelai being born, but yeah, I missed my niece being born because I wasn't coherent, and she knew it. She's a fucking hard ass, dude. I would not fuck with my sister, but yeah, she didn't believe it was gonna happen for the longest time. I'm here a year and a half clean, and she's still like, nope, fuck you, you're going back. I know it, but she's eased up since then, and yeah, we do celebrate once a year.
That's awesome.
It's July or January 3rd or January 20th.
He has a tattooed on his arm.
Yeah, for the record, he just looked at his arm.
I had to remember it. Well, we just went over so much shit that I'm like, fuck, when's my sobriety date? Oh, yeah, 1/20/13. I get it.
Does missing certain special things also kind of motivate you now that you don't want to miss important shit like that ever again?
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, like I said, I missed my niece being born. So far, I've been there for all three of my other nieces. Derek's got 2. Lindsay had 1 more. I've been there for that. But I have I feel bad because I have so much shit going on right now that I have missed a couple events. But it's not that I ever physically missed a holiday. Mentally, I wasn't there, but I was always physically there. I remember one year I was all fucked up, and Derek and his wife, we were out at my aunt's house, and they have money, and part of the Christmas present was you play games to win lottery tickets. So I'm sitting there the whole time like, yeah, you know, I'm going to fucking win, get me a $500 lottery ticket and beat some ass, you know. And I was pissed because I won like $5 and Derek's wife won like 150. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I want that. She knew about me, and I knew she had a feeling that I was fucking after it. She fucking put it in her purse and went and locked it in the fucking car. I'm like, you bitch. You got me. Checkmate, motherfucker.
Jesus.
So, I mean, yeah, and, I mean, I'm happy to be there now, you know. People can rely on me. I spoil my nieces so much around the holidays. Like, so much, it's unreal. Every time my little niece Olivia, like, Lorelai, she's only 2, so she doesn't know money. But every time Olivia's in town, she comes up and she attempts to give me a hug. But she doesn't. Because she knows that I'll pay her for hugs and kisses. I'll straight give her a 5 and be like, now this is for the whole weekend, right? And she's like, yep. And she gives me a fucking hug and a kiss. And I'm like, that's fucking great. I love it. You know?
So you hear people say that your life is never the same after you go through drugs, like with opiates and things like that. Would you say that's the same for you, that your life is not the same now? Or how has it changed versus that?
I would say that I have a better outlook on life because I know the down and dirty shit, and now it's made my life better. Some people have asked me, Jared, if you could take it all back, would you? Part of me wants to say yeah. A bigger part of me wants to say fuck no. Because
I totally agree with this.
If I took it all back, I would not be who I am today. I don't know who I would be, but I wouldn't be who I am today, and I'm happy. I'm happy with who I am today.
It almost creates a fire in you.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people that I've talked to about my life, I end up getting asked that a lot too. Like, would I want to go through all the crazy shit? But I feel like I always describe it as if there's a level of understanding in life, 1 to 10, and 1 is the down low, feeling out, I'm ready to die, don't care about life anymore type things. And then 10 is the ultra happy, you have a kid on the way, you're doing great in your career, paying your nieces for hugs and kisses. Like, if that's the top, when you can understand 1 to 10,
right,
I feel like you just get life more than everybody else. You feel things way more than everybody else.
It.
Yeah, you appreciate it on a level that other people can't understand because they don't know what it's like to be at the bottom.
Right.
When you're in the middle of drugs, walking down a sidewalk, and your brother is pleading with you to get off of drugs, and you tell him you're a lost cause. I don't think people know what that probably felt like.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it's hard to describe. I mean, it was like I said, it's hard to describe because I was looking in his eyes and I knew I wanted to stop, but then every fucking portion of my body was like, keep fucking going, just keep fucking walking, dude.
Do you think you were pushing people away at one point just to save them?
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's what I did with my family.
To me is only going to hurt
it's toxic.
You.
Yeah. And I think that's what I was doing towards the end of my addiction, is I was just trying to push everybody out, let me go so I can go do what I want to do and become a piece of shit. If my family would have let me go, I'd probably still be in prison. I'd either be dead or in prison.
That says a lot about your family, man.
Oh, yeah, my family is great.
Strong people who obviously love you a lot to go through that. That's pretty amazing.
But isn't it crazy that even though you have such a loving family, until you make that choice yourself, you just can't do it.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, until you say, I'm done, you just can't. It's not enough. You could have 1 million outside people loving you and caring about you, but until you make that choice, it's not enough.
And I mean, and that's like I was saying, I was constantly trying to run away from everybody else, and it never fucking worked because wherever I went, I took my drug addiction with me.
Right.
You know what I mean? I could run as fast as I can. I went to California, and no matter where I go, I still got to take me with me. You know, it wasn't everybody else. It was me.
Do you still think about being on the victory lap now? Like, do you still think about, man, like when you wake up and you have the pregnant girlfriend, the kids coming soon, you have a good job, you work with people you like everything is pretty rosy for you right now.
Yeah.
When you see all that stuff, do you ever just stop and smell the roses and go, damn, life could have been so much fucking different?
Yeah, sometimes I do. I'll take a step back and I'll just think about it all and just, I mean, you can't help but smile, man. You can't help but just feel happy and like a weight's just lifted off your shoulders. And every now and then you got to do that, man. You have to remember where you came from, you know, and I came from the slums. Straight fucking junkie to, you know, making a living, have a decent job, have a beautiful girlfriend, have a kid on the way. She has a beautiful son who's fucking awesome. You know what I mean? It doesn't get much better than that, man. And and every now and then I'll look at her and I'll just smile. And she'll look at me like, why the fuck are you smiling at me? And I'm like, don't worry about it.
If you only knew
right.
the journey.
If you only knew what was going through my head right now.
What are the nuggets that people need to walk away with to help them through drug addiction or someone they know that's dealing with drug addiction?
For somebody that's dealing with somebody in drug addiction, like families and things like that, don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever lose hope. Keep fighting. Because the minute you give up, they give up. You know, if it wasn't for my family, keep fighting. I would get, because I already gave up on myself. I needed somebody there to fucking help carry me the way, and they did it tenfold. And for somebody that's going through this and going through what I did, you just have to fucking just, and I know it fucking sounds crazy, and I always heard it a million times while I was in rehab and shit, is you just have to fucking cut everybody off. And, I mean, I would always ask, what do I have to do to change? And they would literally look at me and say, everything. And that's the truth. You have to change everything. And that's what I did.
You have to cut that entire culture out.
Yeah, 100%.
Completely.
Yeah.
What about, what are your feelings about the rehab situation?
It helped educate me. It definitely helped educate me on the disease of addiction and what I needed to do and things like that. But until you're ready to actually physically give up, it's not going to work. You know, you're just wasting money. You have to, in your heart, know that you're fucking done. But, I mean, it definitely helps. It's definitely a good thing.
So getting educated, cutting the toxic people out of your life completely, family, never giving up. Anything else?
Oh, man, I think that's about it. If you can't love yourself, know that I love you.
Damn, look at it, Jared.
That's heavy as fuck, man.
He's here for you. Well, I honestly, I got to say, I'm completely impressed by you because I work with you every day.
Right.
And to know...
It's a sad thing.
Yeah, right. Well, to know where you come from, it's like I see a piece of myself in you, not from addiction, but from knowing that you come from a tough past, because I went through a really tough past, and I feel like I'm way further away from that. I feel like I'm where you are, where I'm enjoying life, and I am utterly surprised all the time to feel like I'm doing well and enjoying life and the whole nine. So anytime when I talk to you, I see that in you.
Yeah.
And I'm always impressed that you made it out of such a dark situation and came out so far on top.
I mean, that's all I want to do, man. That's all I ever want to do is just show people that you can fucking do it. I was 21 when I got clean. Everybody thinks like, hey, I still have 10 years in me. No, motherfuckers. No, you don't, because next day isn't fucking guaranteed.
Yeah, you never know when it's going to get taken from you.
Right. They were talking about the tattoo on my arm. It says 1 day at a time with my fucking sobriety date. And I mean, that's all we're guaranteed is 1 day at a fucking time.
Well, man, thank you very much. We really appreciate it, for real.
Anytime, man.
Hopefully it can help anybody out there knowing, Jared's journey. You wanted to say if anybody wanted to get a hold of you or anything?
Yeah, if anybody wants to get a hold of me, you guys got Lee's information. Just blast him up on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and he knows how to get a hold of me. I'm willing to talk to anybody and everybody.
All right, so shout-outs. I don't know if you have any real shout-outs. You have some you want to do?
I can do a couple people, yeah.
Go ahead.
So Keenan Arrington, Luis is in town. We're going to see him this weekend. So he's always reaching out about the podcast. Stu Diamond, just a great time, guys. Thank you very much. Amber Addison, still recovering from shoulder surgery. She's been making graphics for us lately, which have been absolutely amazing. Tweeting at Holly Holmes. She loved the line that you had for her last week. So I think that's been very cool on Twitter all week. So thank you guys for that.
I don't think I have any individual shout-outs other than I just want to tell everybody that I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. all the feedback that we get nonstop from messages and texts of anybody saying they enjoy it or they're inspired by it or you made me laugh or we like listening to this at work. Just know that every little thing you guys say motivates me tenfold. So just know that you mean the world to me. I love you guys. We're going to keep on trying to give you guys the best content possible. And just know that I always appreciate you. And it all just means the world to me. I love you guys. We love you guys. And we'll see you next week.